Good morning, and thanks for the warm welcome. Yes, I head up the design team at Louisville Appliance Park. We have a team of 22 designers, primarily industrial designers. We also have a mix of user experience designers and user interface designers on the team. And we're responsible for the aesthetics, the usability, the user experience associated with GE's entire appliance line. I mention that because it seems like the only time we get any kind of coverage is when we burn down a building at Appliance Park. Anyway, excuse me. So Matt had asked me to talk a little bit about collaboration and what collaboration means. So I thought it was a great topic because that's something that we're intimately involved with at GE, the notion of collaboration. And so I titled it Care to Collaborate, but really this little piece of punctuation is the focus of the discussion today, and that is, why has collaboration all of a sudden become this major topic in business? Why are we talking about collaboration? And more importantly, as it relates to you and your careers, is there a collaboration role? Is there a play for collaboration, with you and your career personally? So what I'd like to do is start by describing 4 models of collaboration, kind of broadly defined, and then describe a decision process or a framework for deciding what's the right collaboration model, if any, for you. And then what I plan to do is walk through 3 of the 4 collaboration models that we currently employ at GE, at Appliance Park, and then kind of wrap up with a discussion. So I could have titled this discussion Care to Innovate, because when you think about collaboration today and you read about it in the business press and the trade press and design press, collaboration has become synonymous with innovation. There isn't anybody today in any kind of organization that doesn't have some component of collaboration in their innovation toolkit. It used to be that when you think about innovation in a business, say a business the size of GE, it was a pretty straightforward model. You'd take 3 to 5% of your net revenue, and then you'd give it to the guys in the white lab coats, and they'd come back with a set of tools or solutions for the business. That model's really breaking down. It's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that particular model, but if you rely just on that model for innovation in your business, then I think you're going to end up losing to people that are more open in terms of how they view innovation. Okay. So with that, you have to ask, well, what's the big deal? When you think about collaboration in and of itself, it's not necessarily that new. In fact, when you look at product development, any size organization, any internal product development activity, the old silo model where you had design in one silo, engineering in another silo, manufacturing in another silo, sourcing in another silo, and it was this very sequential product development process. That model has pretty much gone away. We've really kind of focused now on cross-functional product development teams, and we were talking with Mark this morning about that notion of, well, how do you organize around product development? And it is no longer this siloed model. Clearly you want to have experts and folks that really understand that particular skill set, whether it be manufacturing, engineering, or plastics, molding, et cetera. But the notion that you're going to go through this sequential process results in a very long development cycle, and oftentimes the end result isn't as optimum as if you had a team put together in a collaborative environment. Now, by way of example, back in 2009, we at GE Appliances elected to bring manufacturing back from Asia and from Mexico and reshore it, if you will, here in the United States. And part of that process of reshoring and bringing that manufacturing base back was to rethink our product development process. And so at the time, we adopted a model that was basically created by Toyota back in the early 90s called the lean development process. And it was a very collaborative, cross-functional product development process. So it was a shift, not just in terms of where we're going to build our product, but how we design, develop, and manufacture the product as well. Probably nothing symbolized that shift towards a collaborative model was what we call the big room. And the big room was just that. It was a big room, no walls. And each product platform, and in our world, a product platform would be a top-load laundry machine, a top freezer, bottom-out freezer. So think about those major appliances in your home, each one of those being a platform. Well, we established the big room for each one of those product platforms. The big room consisted of every skill set associated with the design, development, and manufacture of that product. And that was a pretty radical breakthrough for us. So in our case, my design team in the design studio, half of the team disappeared, and they went into those big rooms. In fact, Rebecca Alford, who's here today, she went into the dishwasher big room and became part of that team. And she sat right next to assembly line operators, sourcing, engineering, manufacturing, product development. Anybody that touched that skill set was in that room. What I thought was really interesting was because of that, you had ownership. It was no longer, well, my job was to deliver the design at this point and hand it off to the next guy. So there was this notion of a team owning the metrics, team owning the overall schedule, et cetera. Well, when I joined GE Appliances in early 2011, and I first walked into the first big room that I saw, it struck me, it looked just like a design studio. I mean, it was a very visual. You had sketches on the wall, drawings on the wall. You had engineers, manufacturing folks, building foam core mock-ups, corrugated mock-up. I mean, it was like I went back to my design school days when you walked into that facility, and that's where the actual product design and development took place. A big shift in thinking. We trained our personnel to think in 3D, to use three-dimensional mock-ups as a way to communicate ideas, as well as to solve problems. And by being co-located, there was just a constant dialogue. At the end of every day, the team would come together and discuss what we learned, what's the next step, and how do we go forward. It was a much different approach. We had a competitive teardown facility, so it wasn't just a matter of understanding how we wanted to accomplish our assignment, but really take a look at the competition. So how is a competitor solving a latch or a mechanism or a sub-assembly problem, and then apply that to our work. And it wasn't just necessarily those competitive products. If we saw a product in an adjacent industry that we wanted to take apart and look at and understand, we would do that. On the walls in the big room was all the information associated with that product. There was no one associated with that product development activity that didn't know where they stood in terms of schedule development, in terms of product cost, in terms of how the competition was stacking up, who was the market share leader that particular month. All that information was out and present for everybody to understand and buy into. So with that process in place, between 2012 and 2014, about 2 years, we launched 7 new product platforms, and as well as 7 new factories, which is a phenomenal task when you think about the size of our products and the complexity of our products. So it was a phenomenal success to have that kind of accelerated development and launch. And today we're a very competitive manufacturer in the marketplace because of that collaborative work environment. So I'd highly encourage you to think about, in your own world, how would you apply that same kind of thinking and employ that. Now, coming back to the design team, we're such believers in this approach to collaboration that over the past couple of years, we've begun to fund student projects to kind of spread the word. We did a couple of projects here at U of L with Leslie Friesen and her team on collaborative design, because our belief is, in order to really be effective going forward, the design students that are coming out of school really need to understand this. So we've kind of put our money where our mouth is and begun funding student projects around this notion of collaboration. The past couple of years, we've done projects with RIT up in Rochester, New York, SCAD in Savannah, and Purdue up in West Lafayette. So this is something that we really believe in. And if there's ever a way to kind of ensure your future, it's get down to the student level and make sure that they understand the benefits of this approach. Okay. But again, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is not so much internal collaboration, but it's that shift from internal collaboration to external collaboration. It's an understanding that no business, again, can innovate on its own. This notion that we have all the knowledge and all the capabilities, and so therefore we'll succeed, is really kind of going by the wayside. When you think about it and what's going on, it has been going on the past few years, this notion of communities and crowdsourcing and issuing challenges to an open audience is resulting in a very robust set of solutions, much more so than we might think about it in your own internal organization and their ultimate solutions. It's been proven that crowdsourcing, community involvement, challenges can solve big problems, can solve complex problems, can open up your business to new products and ideas around services. So it really is become a open innovation sort of approach to product development, product design. Since this open innovation movement has sort of been launched, you're seeing a lot more of these open innovation portals appear, and now they're becoming more, what I consider more focused. Nine Sigma has been around for a long time, InnoCentive has been around for a long time. So what's happening with this transition towards this open innovation and crowdsourcing movement are more and more open innovation portals that are targeted towards specific programs or specific categories or specific problems. Nine Sigma and InnoCentive are primarily physical sciences related open innovation portals or engineering related. Topcoder, they issue coding challenges to the coder community to solve problems. Tongle is more recent. They're focused on data analytics and kind of handling, how do you solve that big hairball of big data and how do you present that data in a meaningful fashion. OpenIDEO, you may be familiar with IDEO. They're a design strategy firm in Palo Alto. They have an open innovation portal centered around social problems and social solutions. And of course, CrowdSpring, if you're a graphic designer, may be familiar with that. That's designing logos to letterheads to brand and corporate identities. So you're really seeing this notion of targeted open innovation platforms that you could leverage your skill and your expertise in solving problems for other companies and do it profitably. We've been playing around with open innovation at GE. A few years ago, our jet engine division, our aviation division in Cincinnati, participated in an open innovation, open source, if you will, challenge around advanced casting technology. When we look at a jet engine, you see a lot of cast metal parts in the engine. And again, the idea is, well, could a larger community of engineers, scientists, physicists, educators, et cetera, go into the portal and provide a solution to a specific challenge? In this case, there was a couple of really interesting solutions around how you hang a jet engine off an airframe. So these problems aren't these little trivial problems, but in some cases they're big, massive problems that can be addressed by the community and done successfully. So we talked about the benefits of collaboration. We talked about, where collaboration pays off. What I'd like to do is kind of switch gears a bit and talk about what are the collaboration models that are out there, and then talk about, well, how do you kind of participate? How do you decide which collaboration model is right for you or right for your business? This matrix was developed by a couple of authors in a paper in the Harvard Business Review back in December 2008. And I'd highly suggest you get a copy of the paper because it was very well done. It really kind of addresses this notion of what are the right collaborative models and how are they right for you. These two authors said that there's basically 4 methods of collaboration: the innovation model, the innovation community, the elite circle, and the consortium. And they kind of describe the aspects of each one of those modes. But more importantly, what I like about the paper is it kind of gives you some running rules in terms of how do you view those innovation or those collaboration models working from a governance standpoint on one axis and a participation standpoint on the other axis. So on the x-axis, you see governance. How do you manage the information, the idea flow? Is it hierarchical? In other words, is there a very set order in terms of how the ideas will be evaluated, judged, and selected? Or is it flat? In other words, is it more open to the community? Are the ideas going to be coming from a closed set of select experts or a group of people? Or are the ideas going to be coming from an open forum? And those two metrics are very important because when you think about it as a company that's playing in this space, you open up your problem or your problem statement to a broad community, you're going to get a lot of ideas. And the question is, how do you down select, how do you translate those ideas cost effectively into prototypes that you can then evaluate and go forward with your business? So there's trade-offs that to be made. Do you want a lot of ideas because you can vet them quickly and efficiently? Or do you want fewer, more, what I consider more expert-oriented ideas that you can translate into your business? And that's a big deal to think about when you're driving your business. So what I'd like to do now is kind of give you some color around each one of those models and using GE as an example, because again, we've played in 3 of those 4 quadrants and kind of walked through the matrix here. We'll provide hopefully some examples and ways to think about it. The first is the innovation mall, and I can't think of a better example of the innovation mall than Quirky. Quirky is a small company based in New York City, established in 2009 by Ben Kaufman. We are an investor and a partner in Quirky. GE is. And it's an interesting model because what Ben has set up is the idea of bringing in ideas from a broad community of inventors, creators, enthusiasts, hackers, et cetera, around the home space. And it's really a wide open canvas, if you will, of ideas. And what the community does then is they vote on the ideas that are submitted by the community members. Once those votes are kind of tallied and there's a consensus towards a certain solution, Ben has a team of internal product development skills that will take those ideas and translate them into CAD drawings, manufacturing drawings. They'll go out and identify a manufacturing source. They'll manufacture the product, market it under the quirky name in retail distribution channels here in the US. And then there's a revenue sharing agreement. So it's a very, very open participation model. But the governance, at the end of the day is eventually it's going to be Ben and his team to say, you know what, we're going to invest in that idea and we're going to go forward. The example I show here is this room air conditioner. This Garth and Leslie was the founder, or the thought leader of this idea of being able to remotely control your room air conditioner. On a day like today, when you're in the office, you can basically give the air conditioner a break, run the temperature up to something manageable while you're out of the apartment, and then on the way home, open up the app, run the air conditioning down to something comfortable. So by the time you end up in your apartment, it's a cool apartment. So we co-developed that product. We were responsible for the air conditioning hardware and integrating the Wi-Fi radio into the unit, and the Quirky community developed the overall app, the look and the feel of the product. And then this particular product ended up being distributed through Home Depot. But again, it's kind of a clever approach that you have one individual thinking about this particular problem, solving the problem, and then through Quirky and the power of GE actually implementing the solution at retail. We talk about the innovation community. This is one, as Ben alluded to earlier, is one that's near and dear to our hearts here at GE Appliances because we launched First Build. It was a year ago Tuesday, right, Matt? We had our first anniversary. First Build is a unique approach to innovation in a collaborative sense, in that it is very much of an open innovation community. If you haven't been to First Build or not familiar with it, there's really three key parts to First Build. First and foremost, you have the co-creator community. You have a rapid prototyping facility, a maker space, if you will. And then you have a micro-manufacturing facility or small batch manufacturing capability, all housed in this 33,000 square foot facility on the U of L campus. First Build also, it's really about the community. It's really about the ideas, the thoughts, the concepts that the community generates and then puts forth to the larger First Build community. That's really the heart and soul of First Build, is the community itself. Now, it's not just them, the community members submitting ideas to the larger organization. We'll also issue challenges to the community. If we have an idea that we've been struggling with internally, we can put that out to the community and get their thoughts. So that's really the heart and soul of First Build. Once those ideas are vetted and there's consensus around key ideas, then we can use these rapid prototyping technologies that we have on site, 3D printing, laser printing, advanced manufacturing techniques, to rapidly prototype and envision those ideas in 3D, test those products internally, see if there's something that we feel there's some there, and go through this whole iterative design process most of us are familiar with. And then once there's an idea or there's promise behind a concept, then we can go into small batch manufacturing. And depending on the product itself, we can do small batches or we can do production on demand out of First Build. So it's a very efficient way of looking at innovation. You contrast that with GE Appliances, the mothership. I mean, we don't get interested in something till we're talking about hundreds of thousands of something, because that's just the scale we operate on, and that's sort of who we are. This gives us an opportunity to rapidly test, vet ideas, and then if it makes sense, we can bring those ideas and those concepts into the mothership and then begin that large-scale manufacturing. It's not just efficiency, but it's also cost-effective, because when you think about energizing a large group of people in Appliance Park versus a handful of makers and creators at First Build, there's a big difference there. There's a fourth component to First Build that I think is also very important, and that's retail sales. At Appliance Park, when you think about GE appliances, you think about going to a Lowe's or a Best Buy or a Home Depot to purchase those appliances. Well, First Build can access those channels as well, but they can also access other sales channels. There's a lot of things happening in terms of how consumers are selecting and purchasing products online, and First Build can access that entire portfolio of capabilities or possibilities when it comes to selling the product. So there's some learnings associated with that process. Some of the products, and this is an exhaustive list, but some of the products that have come out of First Build, we have the Chill Hub. This was a $3,000 refrigerator we launched at CES last January. $3,000 refrigerator is not a impulse buy, but the idea is to try this out. For us to gear up a factory to build these $3,000 refrigerators would be a multi-million-dollar investment, right? But we can try it out this way. Chill Hub in this case is kind of a clever product in that it has a Raspberry Pi microcontroller, a Wi-Fi radio, a user interface, and a set of USB ports inside of the refrigerator that we can accessorize with any number of accessories, much like you would accessorize a smartphone or a tablet computer. We can plug different things in. A couple of examples, it's called the Milky Way, which is a little scale that you put your milk on so that it will kind of judge how much milk you have left. So if you're at Kroger and you want to see how much milk you have left, you need to buy more milk, it's there. But I'm sorry? Oh. But it's a vehicle to try out some of these concepts and do it in a low-cost fashion. Paragon is a countertop sous vide cooker. Sous vide is somewhat of a niche cooking technology. It's used on a commercial basis, most restaurants, but taking sous vide cooking, a commercial cooking technology, into the home in a very inexpensive fashion. This was an Indiegogo campaign that was it Matt, in February, I think we launched it? And phenomenal success. We had met our target within a couple of hours, our target investment. This will be shipping later this year. It's this $199 induction burner, a Bluetooth sensor, and an app so that you can actually control the sous vide process. And then more recently, last Tuesday, we launched the Nugget Ice maker, Opal, on Indiegogo, and we're what, $800,000 now in terms of interest, and it just pegged. And who would have thought that a countertop ice maker would have that kind of take-up? But I want to tell you, when you think about how would you take that business case through a traditional model like GE, you'd have a team of business analysts and strategists, and they'd put together the business plan and projected demand and investment needed and payback and ROI. Hell, just do it, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this exercise, is to try these concepts out. If they're promising, they'll win. The third of the fourth collaborative concepts is the consortium. And this is one that we're driving pretty hard within the design organization at GE Appliances. In this particular case, this consortium example is associated with a large planned community outside of Orlando, Florida. The community is called Lake Nona. It's a 7,000-acre planned community of housing, but attached to that community is what's called a medical city. There's 4 hospitals associated to that facility. There's a VA hospital, there's a teaching hospital, there's a children's hospital, there's a research hospital. And so this planned community is really focused on providing a level of care and benefit to the larger community. We are a member of the Lake Nona Institute, which is the consortium that is driving the overall mission and goals, the larger goals of the planned community. Lake Nona Institute has 3 goals: improve the health of Lake Nona residents by 15%, improve sustainability of Lake Nona by 20%, and improve the cost of Lake Nona partner facilities by 20%. So as a consortium member, each one of those goals means something to us and gives us something to act on and to drive towards. In this particular case, we're focused on the health initiative. When you think about it, there's a correlation between the food we eat and our health. And we're in the business of making appliances to make food that you eat. So this whole notion of meal preparation is sort of in our wheelhouse. And if we can drive a connection between healthy living, healthy meal preparation, and our products, and this is a great vehicle to try that concept out. So last fall, we kicked off the Healthy Kitchen Project. And again, what a fantastic environment to work in. It's a well-defined space. You have partners that are in the health field. We have other institute partners like Johnson & Johnson and their Human Performance Lab as part of this. And we can now dive into this particular problem, again, in a very fast fashion. Concept testing and evaluation, in this case, with the residents in the community of Lake Nona. So like any other collaboration project, you know, we get the stakeholders involved. We get the residents of Lake Nona involved in understanding what's the problem that we're trying to solve. How do we create a more healthy diet for the residents of Lake Nona to you know, reduce healthcare costs and improve wellness? So we started with the standard research techniques, interviewing the stakeholders, spending time with the residents, conducting in-home surveys. We had some of the residents do daily diaries of their activity to really understand their sort of journey through the meal preparation process. And what we landed on were really 3 key areas that we could focus on and address. Planning and organization, obviously. Automation, how do we automate that process of meal preparation, meal planning? And then how do we leverage the social network associated with this planned community and the other ancillary functions like the hospitals? And that's all done in the context of saving time. I mean, one of the things we heard time and time again is, you know, help me save time. I mean, I don't have enough time to think about preparing these meals, so how can you help me with that? And we sort of saw this as the framework for the problem. We laid out the kitchen journey from planning, shopping, storage, prep, reheat, recreate, and then disposal. So breaking the steps down. And then what we, you know, obviously we did is, okay, well, where does GE appliances play today? Where are our strengths? Well, obviously storage. We make refrigerators. We can, you know, store food. And we're pretty good at prep, reheating, recreating, and then disposal. So that's sort of the sweet spot where we bring to the table. And then we have the ancillary steps that we are not necessarily strong in, but guess what? We can rely on our consortium partners to help us through those areas. Or we could bring on other consortium partners, future consortium partners, to kind of fill in those blanks and build out that value chain. So today we're in the concept phase, and David Dixon's here was working very diligently on building this concept out. There is a prototype home at Lake Nona that we plan to install this working prototype in October of this year, and we begin to actually use the product and get that kind of iterative feedback that we can then take back into the studio and refine on an ongoing basis till we end up with a solution we think makes sense. So the last of the collaboration matrix, and again, this is the one that we don't play in at GE, is these authors term it the elite circle. And I think Alessi, if you're familiar with Alessi, is probably a good example of an elite circle collaboration. You know, Alessi management identifies areas that they want to put their brand and put their name on in the marketplace, and then they align themselves with, you know, the star architects and designers to go build product for that particular market need, and then they select which products they want to put their name on and then go to market with that product. Kind of a niche-y approach to collaboration, but one I wanted to highlight as part of the overall collaboration matrix. So I think in conclusion, this, you know, as you think about collaboration, kind of look at this chart and see if there's something in there for you and for your business and how that might fit together. Keeping in mind things like governance and keeping in mind participation. Whether you're participating as a member of, say, a First Build, or you're a consortium member, or your business is looking at creating and structuring a collaboration effort. Okay.